Okay, so let's see how this goes. So this is basically a some of my thoughts on working on attending the facilities where Brent is going to be hosting Delta Force, or excuse me, Delta Company of One Shepherd, and working with the Lightfighters Anonymous training event there. So there's been a number of AARs already. I think all of those are excellent. So Brent 0331 did one, What Alchemist did one. I think you definitely need to go and see those, particularly if you're interested in the Lightfighters Anonymous specific AAR for that event for September 2025. So where I want to shift a little bit is talking about my current thoughts on the area in general. And from a rifleman's perspective and from a small unit leader's perspective, what are some things that are standing out to me right now as key considerations for this area? So right off the bat, to sort of orient you on the map, we got north. We have the assembly area where you would probably be assembling with vehicles. There's a road that comes down. Eventually, you got a creek or river to cross. You have the larger training area. The training area has a pond on it. There's a river that runs along the southern edge. The total road distance is approximately 5.25 miles. So then, what is the really big, so bottom line up front, I guess, is the way to say it. What do I think about Brent's facility for Delta Company of One Shepherd and for any future events that might train in this area? And the big thing for me is going to be water, water, water. I think water is the major driver for success or failure in this area. So then, if you are getting ready to attend Delta Company of One Shepherd, what should your individual water plan be? My current thought and recommendation is to bring at least 6, but probably 10 liters or quarts of water carrying capacity for training, for a full 5 days of training. And then that 5 days of training will probably include an STX. I assume they're going to follow the Alpha Company formats. So probably an STX and 2 days of FTX. So within that, at the individual level, I would bring the capacity, like I said, so some combination of water bottles and water bladders that would get you up to um, really 10 liters or 10 quarts of carrying capacity. And then from there, and what I like to do when training at One Shepherd is either fill all of my water containers at the end of the day before I go to sleep or at the beginning of the day after I wake up. And then as I get an opportunity, swap out empty water containers throughout the day at the sleep area and constantly be replacing all of my empties with full containers. So kind of like changing out empty mags for full mags, just keeping that process going throughout the day. That worked really well for me training at Alpha Company and One Shepherd. And I expect that to be a useful strategy at Delta Company once they are operational. Then the next thing would be, especially from a rifleman's perspective, I would be prepared to carry 10 liters of water. But I think you're really going to key off of your leadership. So you're going to have riflemen and you're going to have small unit leaders. patrol leaders, and your patrol leaders, really probably your APL, your assistant patrol leader, is going to be the one deciding what the water situation is going to look like, how much you're going to carry, things like that. So you're really going to key off of them, and then that information is going to get distributed down the line to the individual rifleman. The rifleman is going to fit in with the plan. So I would just have I would have my water plan be flexible, but I would definitely check with the leadership and say, hey, what is the water plan? What do we need to be bringing? What do we need to be packing? And I would pack all of that. Um, So yeah, and I think the thing to be packing in this training area is basically going to be water, ammo, and a poncho. I should have said that a little earlier. But basically, I think that's really all you're going to be carrying is water, ammo, and a poncho, and snacks and nods if you have them. Nods are thermal. That is my current recommendation for this training area, to keep the amount of equipment absolutely minimal, and make sure that you have as much capacity to be able to carry that water, uh, have as much water carrying capacity as you can manage. So, if you're a small unit leader, especially if you are the APL, I would absolutely make sure that you are talking to the staff to make sure that you have a solid water resupply plan for those under your care. If you are a rifleman or a team leader, I would definitely be looking for that information from your leadership and making sure that they have a water resupply plan. All right, so next, also make sure that you bring salt tablets for this area. My recommendation, my thought is, and my experience is that you're not going to be eating enough to really replace all the electrolytes that you're going to be losing, especially all the salt that you're going to be losing. Bring the salt tablets or bring little packages of salt like you see at restaurants, whatever. You get issued MREs, especially for Delta Company of One Shepherd. Take those salt packets, distribute them amongst the liquids that you're drinking for that day. Make sure that you are intaking salt and other electrolytes. All right, so then for if you're planning road marches and everything, my opinion is you're going to have, so you have your assembly area, you have your other key training area, your larger one. I think this bend in the road right here is a really logical point to have troops stop, take a short break. That's going to be roughly 2 miles, probably a little less. I didn't measure it. And then the other logical areas for stopping, and honestly, probably doing a foot check. So I don't know if at this point I would probably have troops stop and just take a little breather and check if anybody has hot spots, and is starting to form blisters. At this point, especially if it's hot out, this point I would consider having troops stop, take off boots, check feet for blisters, switch out socks. This is going to be a metal bridge. This is a turn in the road. This is a metal bridge over a water feature. And so, it's up to y'all, but that's something that I would consider planning on. I think that's a really logical point, a good feature to be able to identify, and then get everybody taken care of, taped up if they need to, and then finish foot movement to the training area. And this is not to scale. This is not to scale. I don't have that kind of artistic ability. Sorry, I'm also a little sick here. All right, so then look at my notes here. So if you are a small unit leader, what time are your troops going to move? My opinion right now. So last I heard, and this could change, Brent was talking about doing Delta Company semesters later in the year, more so in the winter. And for Texas, my experience with winter in Texas, and I have limited experience in Texas, but my experience so far is you can have temperatures like in December as high as 90 degrees Fahrenheit. You can have temperatures as low as 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That's my experience. If anybody else wants to chime in to say something different, that's great. So those are the temperatures I would plan for. Anybody who's looking to plan planning to be as successful as possible, look at the expected weather ahead of time before you go and attend your event. Plan for those temperatures. If you are doing a 90, if it is 90 degrees or more, when you are traveling, I would definitely see if you have the opportunity to travel before the sun really comes up. And so this is heavily wooded, so that's going to buy you extra time um, as before the sun really hits the whole area, before it gets up above the trees. You can have a little bit of extra time. But really, what I would think about as a small unit leader, yeah, if possible, if your higher level leadership lets you, I would think about making your foot movements to move the whole way if that's what's needed. I would consider starting those at 6 a.m. in the morning and trying to get that done by 8 or 9, 9:30, being in your main training area. That's what I would try for. That's what I would shoot for. And if that is not possible, obviously you're gonna just roll with whatever your leadership gives you. But that would be that's what I would try to do. Or I would try to move at night. So after the sun has set, which should probably be around in the winter, should be probably around 8 p.m. Somewhere in that nighttime frame, I would try to move troops. But again, that's going to be dependent on your leadership. I can't tell anybody what to do. It's just what I would try to do if I had the opportunity. All right. Next up, so my opinions. This is absolutely not the time to be trying to carry a 60-pound bug out bag and 20 pounds of plates and whatever else. A lot of people come to a training area and it's sort of their time to shake out their bug out bag and everything else, their inch bag and all their tactical plans and everything else. I would just not do that at this training facility. I would really keep that stripped down to just water, ammo, a little bit of snacks, poncho, berry essentials, absolute berry essentials, and really run as heavy of a water weight as you can. For what kind of equipment would you want to be wearing? I would shoot for a split rig, something you can open up in the front. So belt kits or certain types of chest rigs and things can all open up in the front, and then be ready to open up your combat field top and just dump heat. So I think in my experience, that's really important. The ability to just open everything up and dump heat when you are at a rest point. And the other thing I think you're going to want to think about is wearing synthetic materials and really making sure that you have moisture wicking material. So I'm a really big fan of some of natural fibers and avoiding microplastics and all that. This is a situation where um, sweat can build up underneath the equipment and then can abrade you and create hot spots and blisters and raw spots, and it gets rough. So I would really consider what you need for moisture management. You want to make sure that you're intaking fluids. You want to make sure that you're able to change where your equipment is on you. You need to be able to adjust things. You need to be able to not allow wet spots where sweat is accumulating, to breathe and to dry out. And you want to save your skin. You also might want to be taping things up and avoiding any hot spots, blisters, raw spots, things like that. So that is my experience. That's my considerations for this training area. So I hope over time, as people get more experience in this training area, uh, they can add more to it. So I had a little bit more that I wanted to say, but I'm at time here. So y'all take care and have a great day.